Test. All right, here we go. Here we go. Eric Arnold here on September 12th, Tuesday. Oh, roughly around midday, the 12th of September. What do we got on the show here in the politics barn for you today? Danelo Cavalcante, a big escalation in the cold Civil War. We're now seizing guns, or I guess I should say prohibiting their use. How about that? I mean, what's the difference really? You can keep the gun, you just can't, bear it. You can have arms, you just can't bear them. So that maybe just a mishmash of what's in the news this morning. Some housekeeping items. The Sports Barn channel is active. Sports Barn. That's where we're going to be posting sports-related stuff from now on. Daryl Turner. Sports. It's all one word. Be honest, I can't remember if I capitalized the B or not. I may have, I may not have. I don't know if it matters. So just look for Sports Barn, all one word. Hopefully that brings it up. There's one video there now. It's a copy of the sports video that I shot last Thursday. If you're wondering how that went. College football picks, shitty. Pro football picks, not so bad. I think we went 9-6 in the pros. Thanks to that glorious Monday night win last night by the Jets. What about that? But that's neither here nor there, because we're in the politics barn now. So Sports Barn, if for you all you sports people that want to hear football picks, that's where that is. All right. There's a cat. We're having a war with these cats right now that they're just, I don't know, they're doing things they've never done before, like piss in the house. Even though they got all of planet Earth to piss in, they just want to take a leak in the house for God knows what reason. And so we're trying to encourage them that that's not acceptable. It's like nothing's changed in the last 10 years. This is still not acceptable. So we're working on that. We're working on it. All right, where were we? Let's talk. Let's get right to the top here, because this is an active story that is changing as we speak. This guy escaped from jail 2 weeks ago. He's a murderer. Murdered his girlfriend. He's from Brazil. I guess he murdered someone in Brazil, they think, around 2017. And I guess that is an open case because he's here, right? If it was a closed case, he'd be in a cage there, but he's not. So I guess that's an open murder investigation. So he fled the country of Brazil, come up here, because why not? We don't let, it's not like we have a border. It's not like we turn these type of people away. So of course he, gets into the country because that's just what our politicians have decided is right for us, to allow criminals from other countries to just walk in. So he does. And it isn't too very long before in April of 2021, he murders his girlfriend here, stabs her, I believe, 38 times in front of her 2 kids, both under the age of 10. And I don't even think I got to 38. I could go on for another 5-6 seconds, and that would bring me up to 38. So that's who we're dealing with here. True sociopath, scum, the worst of the worst. So we managed to put him in jail. The good people of Chester County sat on their jury and declared him guilty, life in prison, and within a week he escapes. That our government is so incompetent that they can't even close the door, where this guy, and it really wasn't that, much of a, I saw people comparing this to like Jason Bourne. It's like, what are you talking about? I mean, the way he got out really wasn't that complicated. He scaled up a wall, which I think any rudimentary rock climber could have done, and got up on the roof and over some wire, and out he went. He was the second guy, not the first guy to do this, the second guy to do this. The first guy did it, got out. They caught him within a couple hours. He got out just a few months after the first guy did it, and now he's gone. 2 weeks ago, this guy broke out of Chester County Jail, and he's been bouncing around Chester County here for 2 weeks. Now, the new update is last night he broke into a house, got his hands on a .22 rifle with apparently a 10-round clip, and the homeowner who was there at the time, I guess then as he's running out the back door, shot at him 7 times with God knows what. Unknown whether he hit him or not. That part's unclear. But he is armed with a .22 rifle now. He's down in the area of O&J Roberts High School, if you know where that is. You can look it up on a map. Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates went there. O&J Roberts High School. That's the neighboring district to where I went to high school at Twin Valley. So he's pinned down there, they think. That's what the state police is saying. They've got him pinned within a 6 square mile area, which to me is still a pretty big area, but they think they got him hemmed in there. He hasn't been seen since the homeowner shot at him about 10:30 last night. Then he went into the woods and whoosh, So we got helicopters. I mean, the helicopter comes back and forth over my house probably once every 4 hours when it goes up to the Reading Airport to refuel. This is in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m. There goes the helicopter. Here comes the helicopter back. So, they're down there with just, I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, the dude's probably not going to make a move until it gets dark. He'll probably move when it's dark, I would imagine, if he's going to try to break containment. This is the part I don't understand. It's like, it seems to me, you got him hemmed in now. At least that's what your people are telling you. Just send in the National Guard at this point. It just seems like it's a manpower issue at this point. He's in there. Are you just going to wait there forever until try to starve this guy out? That could take a while. Meanwhile, you got a major road just closed. All the people in the area are told to just stay in their homes for what, indefinitely? Go get this goddamn guy. Enough is enough. So Shapiro should be calling in the National Guard at this point, to me, and you just have 1,000 dudes out there, and just go get the damn guy. Just swarm him, and you'll find him. He's in there somewhere. He's already broken at least 2 of these. We got him hemmed in at Longwood Gardens, and then he appears up in Phoenixville, unbeknownst to the Pennsylvania State Police. So they've already blown this twice at least. It's been 2 weeks. The cops around here look like clowns. So, and this is, my larger point on this whole story. You're saying, what's this have to do with politics? Government is inherently incompetent. And that's what the Marxists, the authoritarians, the Democrats, they want more of it for everybody. Government can't do basic things. Can't do basic things anymore. I'm not even sure our military could do basic things anymore. I see articles about Navy ships where they catch on fire and just burn, till they're a total loss in port. It's like we have sailors now that can't do basic things like put out fires. We have sailors now that can't do basic things like steer a ship. I keep reading where these Navy ships run into each other. total loss, smash, they run into each other. It's like, Jesus Christ. You know, I know pleasure boatmen that don't do that. You're a Navy man. Can't you guys steer a ship? Yeah, I know they're all busy attending woke seminars about diversity and equality and inclusion and all this other bullshit, and that the real men probably have all quit the service. So this is my point. But yeah, the government can't apparently keep people from taking shits on the side of the sidewalk in San Francisco. It can't stop people from shooting up hard drugs in the streets of Philadelphia. What good is it? It can't even keep a convicted murderer in prison. It's useless. It's pointless. The only thing it does is arbitrarily enforce the law on its political enemies, like me and you and the people in the jail there in D.C. That's pretty good at that. But as far as giving us basic services that our voluminous tax dollars pay for, no, the government's completely and totally useless for that. Totally. And they want to give us more of it. God knows why people keep voting Democrat, because, you know, nothing but bad things happen when you vote for them. But hey, you know, people are the devil they know. They're frightened by the incessant propaganda from the Democrats. We've made things good. Don't vote for Republicans. They're evil. They will do horrible things. And you look around and you say, well, everything just keeps getting worse. You guys have been in power for basically now what? 16 of the last, 20 years? Is that about right? Let's see. 12 of the last 16 years. And from where I'm sitting, things have gotten worse. Things have markedly gotten worse. I could name you, well, here's an example. I live in the same house I've always lived in. And I can tell you for a fact, we never used to have power outages around here like we do now. I lose power probably 6 times a year now. And when I say lose power, not just bloop, for half a second. I'm talking like significant outages of 8 hours or more. That never used to happen, never. But, no one has any money to do anything anymore, so the power company, they don't spend money to maintain the right-of-ways, so trees keep falling on the wires. They used to cut those back years ago. Don't have the money to do it anymore. Country's collapsing, infrastructure crumbling. How about that? So, anyway, they're probably going to get this guy. Probably by the time this is posted, this guy's going to be in custody. He's been on the run way longer than he should have been, and now the fact that he has a weapon is disturbing. So hopefully he'll just give up, but I don't know why he would. I mean, he hasn't given up yet. I don't know if he's a survivor. If he is, he'll give up. Because they're going to shoot him. If they see him and he doesn't have both hands in the air or he's lying flat on his face, they're going to shoot his ass. And I don't have a problem with that. Especially now that somewhere he's got a gun. So, why did he take that gun? Why did he take it? So the guy clearly still wants to play the game. Well, you play the game. Sometimes you go down, sometimes you lose. So hopefully they find him soon before somebody gets hurt. It would be a real shame if this comedy of errors became a tragedy of errors. Michelle Lujan Grisham, Tyrant of the Week. This is the governor of the small state of New Mexico who has declared that there's a public health emergency in Albuquerque and I guess the county that contains Albuquerque. Is that Bernalillo? Is that how you pronounce it? County. That you are no longer, for at least the next 30 days, allowed to conceal carry or open carry weapons. As if that's going to do anything with your crime issue. Of course, it's going to do nothing. This has nothing to do with crime. This has everything to do with the elimination of our right to bear arms. So, and again, right, we're always right here in this politics barn. We're never wrong. We may be early with some of our predictions, but we're never wrong. We told you this was going to happen, and of course it has now, when the pandemic was going on, and our right of association, our right of speech, our right to freely assemble, our right to worship as we pleased, all those rights, our right to speak freely, all those rights were taken from us by the government because of a public health emergency. And I and a number of others pointed out, well, if you could do that, you could take all the rights, you know, just on a phony baloney emergency. Just declare a phony baloney emergency and take the rights. And that's what's happened. We told you it was going to happen. It said sooner or later they'll declare some kind of phony baloney emergency on crime, and they'll declare that your rights to own or use a gun are null and void. And here it has happened. So it's yet another conspiracy theory that's proven 100% true, as I told you it would. And this is just the opening salvo here. This is just a test case. She is not acting in a vacuum. The Democrats don't do that. There's consequences in the Marxist Party for going off the reservation. So that's the people calling the shots. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. I don't know if Hillary Clinton's involved so much because the Obamas hate her, much as everybody hates her. So I don't know if she's involved, but definitely the Obamas are at the top of who's calling the shots in this Marxist country. They're telling her what to do here. They're saying, look, we've been waiting a long time for this. They're waiting for the right fact pattern to emerge for them to try this sort of thing. In other words, they can't just go down the streets of Philadelphia and say, it's an emergency. It's an emergency. Look at the crime. Look at the crime. You can't take guns. You cannot have a gun in Philadelphia. All your permits now to carry a weapon in Philadelphia are null. They wouldn't be able to even argue it with a straight face in court because where's your emergency? In other words, that many guys got killed last week. That many guys got killed the week before. And the week before that. It's always been that bad down there. Basically, the Democrats have been in charge so long down there that the crime has always been this bad. You could probably point to pre-Soros DA times of when crime was not totally out of control in Philadelphia. Believe it or not, the Democrats that run that place down there at one point behaved somewhat like sensible Americans. But then once Soros bought the DA's office down there, probably was that maybe 18, maybe before that, but I'm going to say guess at it and say 2018. That's when crime really just went through the roof. The cops just threw up their hands and said, well, there's no point in enforcing the law when the DA's office is just going to turn them loose. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe you could have done your gun seizure thing, like, say, in the first 6 months of when Soros's DA took over, and that would show you that discrepancy in the crime figures, and you could blame it on the guns and try to seize the guns, but they weren't ready to do that at that point. Now you can't do it in Philadelphia because you can't make that argument with a straight face. It's like the crime figures, the homicides have been the same way now for 3, 4, 5 years in a row. It's ridiculous. You can't do it. But in Albuquerque now, a small city where you're probably going to get little pushback. I guess they've had just enough of a small sample size crime, and I'm certain none of these crimes have absolutely nothing to do with legal gun owners with their legitimate permits to carry these guns. So the idea is, well, let's see what they'll put up with. They put up with the pandemic. I mean, we made them dance on a string for a long time, and very few of them did anything to fight back. I mean, there were no massive protests against the lockdowns. People weren't showing up by the tens of thousands on the Capitol steps to protest the lockdowns. By and large, for the most part, we just suffered under it. We just ate it. And then we reelected these cocksuckers that locked us down. So they know damn well that they can get away with this sort of thing, and they almost certainly will. That's why I'm saying this is just the opening shots here. You'll see a lot more of these things. It would not surprise me that once this plays out, now you're saying, well, it'll get shot down by the courts. You, my friend, have a lot more faith in our court system than I do. Yeah, I can point to a place in a couple different documents where it says shall not be infringed and the right to bear arms. I've told you again and again, we're living in a lawless society. The words on the paper do not matter if the person interpreting what's on the paper don't want it to matter. These Marxists have totally taken over the judicial system. You have complete communists in judicial positions, serving as judges at the district level, serving at the appellate level, up and down the prosecutors almost entirely taken over by the Democrat Communist Party. So there's no way you're going to get any kind of decision out of a hardcore commie that says, yep, that's right. You have the right to bear arms, and the governor does not have the right to simply void your constitutional rights. That's more or less what she said with her words when she issued this order. She said, your rights are not absolute. You're saying I don't have the authority to do this? I absolutely have the authority to do this. And again, we're back to that argument that never really was adjudicated in the pandemic, where, months, years into this goddamn pandemic, we're running around saying, this is outrageous. There's no way the people that set up the rules in this world, in this country, that 100, 200 some years ago, had a system devised in mind where we would have specific rights that we have guaranteed to us in writing, unless just one person over here says, yeah, there's an emergency. There's an emergency. You got to give up those rights. You got to give them up. You can't have them. You can't have those rights. Oh, well, is it just 2 weeks? Is it just 2 weeks to slow the spread? Well, for now. And then that may become your new normal, per se, new normal. New normal? I don't like the sound of that, the new normal. That makes it sound like it's more than 2 weeks. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll just play it by ear. We'll play it by ear. And then, 2 years into the thing, we're like, when does this end? When does this end? This is ridiculous. It never ends. So, it ended when finally enough public opinion pressured some politicians that, all right, we've proven our point, and let's let them loose for now, knowing that we can always reinstate this stuff whenever we need to. And we've won. We know that we can lock these guys down, and take the rights anytime we want, and they'll do nothing. So they know this now. Yeah, and the point being that this is not how the system was set up. You cannot just declare an unending emergency that takes away the rights. There's no point in the rights even existing if just one person can just issue an order saying, yep, you lose the rights. You lose the rights, you have no rights. Not until I say the emergency's over. And we're always in a state of emergency. Oh, by the way, 9/11 was yesterday. As if that doesn't prove my point. How long ago was it that the buildings were knocked down? What level of threat level is the TSA at right now? They have levels that they've never ever gone to, like blue and green, like peacetime. They're never at those levels, ever. It's always a level of crisis. It's always a level of threat because, of course, the government then uses that as justification to steal your rights. So that's all this is. It's just ginning up more phony baloney, fake crises. Climate change will be next. That's in there. They can certainly do that. Take away your right to own a business or your right of freedom or your right to own a car based on a phony baloney climate change emergency. Haven't you gotten the game yet? Jesus, I mean, it's so obvious. All they're doing is just ginning up fake fake controversies, fake emergencies, and they use it to steal your rights. They want complete and total control over everything. And pesky old dusty documents like the Constitution are somewhat in their way. It's probably not going to stay in their way because we don't enforce it. We don't force them to follow the Constitution. So what's likely to happen here is nothing. I mean, in other words, people are protesting, not a lot, frankly. They are out there with their guns. The governor has done nothing to them. She has not further escalated the issue by the penalty is a civil fine, up to $5,000, I read. In other words, I guess she's just going to mail them a fine. She's not going to seize their weapon. She's not going to put them in jail. She's just going to issue them a $5,000 fine. Well, I mean, that could be as bad as, going to jail. I mean, that $5,000 fine, that doesn't go away. In other words, you got to do something with that. If you don't pay it, eventually they'll do other things like take your driver's license. And eventually they'll take your freedom. And they will enforce that $5,000 fine at the point of a gun. This is a golf club, but at the point of a gun, they will enforce that civil penalty should they decide to do that. Now, right now, they haven't issued any of these civil penalties that we know of. So we don't know if they are going to enforce the order or not. They are litigating the issue. Lawsuits are being filed. Again, my thought is they'll lose. No judge is going to come forth and say, yeah, this is blatantly unconstitutional. And if it is, it'll be a Republican district judge or something. But he'll be overruled by a collection of communist judges, which vastly outnumber the constitutional judges. Now you're saying, well, we got the Supreme Court. It'll get to the Supreme Court and they'll shut that down. They have been pretty consistent here lately on gun rights. What was the big gun case? New York versus Bruin, was that it? Don't be so sure. Don't be so sure. And this is another reason why I think this is happening now and why this didn't happen, say, 3-4 years ago. Now, I would say the case is probably going to end up before the Supreme Court around, 2025-ish, maybe 26-ish, where it takes that long for these cases to work their way through the legal system, which is nothing if not slow. When it gets to the Supreme Court, there's no guarantee that it's still going to be, oh, there's my wife is leaving. She wanted to say something.
I gotta go find Cindy. She's lost.
Oh, no. That's bad. That's bad. Anyway, what's next? What was I going to say? The Supreme Court, in 25 or 26, there's no guarantee the conservatives are still going to have control. A couple things could happen. The makeup of the court could be the same, but they could be being blackmailed. What does that mean? Well, if the party splits in 2024, the Republican Party, which I think is an excellent chance of that happening, the Democrats are going to win overwhelming control of the House and the Senate. They could, in lieu of packing the court, simply blackmail the court and say, we will pack the court unless we get some decisions that we kind of like. That's happened already. That happened back in the 30s when FDR threatened to pack the court. He backed off, but whoa, lo and behold, suddenly there started to be some decisions that came out of the Supreme Court that were a lot more favorable to FDR than before his threat to pack the court. So that's happened already. They may just pack the court. They might just go, this is the era, as I saw a good article in Zero Hedge this morning by Jonathan Turley. He's, I think he's basically like a Dershowitz, a classic liberal. And when I say classic liberal, that's a compliment. It means, you know, he's somebody that could be in the Democrat Party from the 1950s. That's not that respects the constitutional system that we have and is not a communist like the current leadership of the Democrat Party. Anyway, Turley's point was that right now we're in the system of why not? In other words, let's just go ahead and use the total extent of our power, which is what I've been railing against again and again and again. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. The rights of the minority. If you ignore the rights of the minority, sooner or later you might be in the minority, and then look out. But at any rate, so where were we? Back to they may just go ahead and pack the court. And then you know what you're going to get then. Either way, you're going to get a decision that says this is absolutely legitimate, that the executive power in these states, if not the federal government, has no limits, that they can do whatever they want, which is more or less what we learned in the pandemic. Nobody said no. No court said no to these health tyrants. They all just sat back and went, well, this is kind of cool. I kind of like it. Well, I'm not going to get in the way of this. I'm not going to be the one that teaches constitutional law to these lying criminals like Dr. Fauci. I'm just going to let him do whatever he wants. And so, yeah, I fully expect the Supreme Court to uphold this case here. Is there any way we can win? Well, I don't expect it to happen in New Mexico just because it's kind of an opening salvo and it's a small state to begin with. And of course, they've cleverly tailored this in such a way that it really doesn't affect that many people in New Mexico. In other words, I live in New Mexico. Do you live in Albuquerque? Well, no. Well, then it doesn't affect you. I live in Albuquerque. Do you carry your gun with you? Well, no. I just use it for home defense. Well, it doesn't affect you. So, you know, it only affects a very small portion of people to try to gin up the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people that should be on the steps of the State House in Santa Fe demanding that they get their rights back. That's what should happen. You know, if we can generate that kind of anger, but, you know, judging by the leadership of the gun community, I haven't heard the NRA say anything about this, frankly. I heard that the Gun Owners of America is going to file suit. Good for them. But, you know, they should be organizing mass protests right now. And I haven't seen that they are. So I would expect you're going to see this used again and again and again in increasingly larger venues until you're ultimately seeing it in cities like Philadelphia, places where they haven't yet been able to ban the gun like they have in most of the big cities in this country. Isn't that odd that a lot of these cities where crime is like Fallujah in Iraq, you're probably safer walking down the street as an American in Fallujah than you are walking down the street in Cabrini Green, Chicago. Guns are not allowed for the most part. You can't carry in these cities. That's weird. You think they'd have no crime at all. Wow, Shazam, how odd is that? So they don't want us to have guns. They don't want the opposition, the Republicans. They don't want us to have guns. I don't know how to say that any clearer. Everything else they say in absence of that is a lie. That is the goal, to disarm the American populace. That's always been the goal. All right, what else? I saw something in the poll that said Biden and Trump are below 50% in Iowa. I mean, it's one poll. Hard to tell. Also saw another tidbit about how Trump is trying to get the D.C. judge to recuse herself because she's such a blatant communist. I don't know if I have a hard and fast feeling about that. I almost want her to just try the case just because that's a grounds for appeal, that it's a blatant appellate issue that might earn a reversal at the appellate level. What could happen is they simply take the commie off the case and put in another commie that's just a little less obvious than the current commie, which would be bad. You know, if you're going to be a commie, go ahead and be a commie. And I think that's what's going to happen in these televised trials, is that it's going to be more obvious to John Q. voter who doesn't pay that close of attention. He's going to see the news coming to him directly without the filter of the propaganda machines. And he might say to himself, well, damn, I mean, this is kind of a sham, a fix. This sure doesn't seem like justice here. It seems like these guys have already made up their mind. I think I'm about to have to go on duty here. All right, so let's cut this short. That's all we got to say for now, because we still have free speech in this country, somewhat. Let's use it while we still can. I'm Eric Arnold. I believe in it. I believe in free speech, and we'll speak again.